all you wonderful, wonderful F1 fans out there, not only in the home of F101 Calgary, Alberta, Canada, but around the world. If you're hearing my voice, it can only mean two things. That one, my name is Kelsey, and two, you are listening to a breaking news episode of F101. Now, normally I would start off with an episode with the hot topics of everything you need to know in the world of F1, but this is what this entire episode is about. So we're going to start off with the breaking news that came out last night. If you're paying attention, earlier this morning, it was confirmed, and it has to do with Aston Martin and Audi, and you will let me know in the comments below which team you think is going to succeed a little bit more. Breaking news, Adrian Newey is stepping down as team boss. He will now be just strictly, and I mean strictly, responsible for the development and essentially the fixing of the Aston Martin F1 car. Now, only 2 races in. Some people are saying this is ridiculously early. He didn't get a whole lot of time to get things going the way he wanted to, all that kind of fun stuff. But if you're looking at it realistically, Newey was not supposed to stay as the team boss forever. That is not his preference. That is not his job. That is not his specialty. What is his specialty? His specialty is making kick-ass vehicles for F1 teams. So with the not just 2-race debacle that is Aston Martin as of right now, it is just the overall, it's the construction of the car, it's the vibration, it's how it missed so much time in practice, how it looks horrible after practice, and what seems to be a non-existent or going nowhere fast type of development for Aston Martin. This is why they decided to make Adrian Newey, put him back in where he deserves, what he needs to do, and what he does best. So, if Adrian Newey is stepping down, who is replacing him? Well, if you're in F1 for any longer period of time, you will notice his name. Jonathan Wheatley is coming over. He was the team boss of Audi for 2 whole races, and now he's coming to Aston Martin. This, I think, is one of the best decisions Aston Martin could have done. Now, we don't know if this was in the works before, if this was just negotiation with Wheatley before it happened, anything of those kind of circumstances. But Jonathan Wheatley coming over to Aston Martin definitely gives Aston Martin a really good veteran voice, veteran ideas, and a point of view that not many team bosses have. He's been around as a racer. He's been around as a tech. He's been around as a team boss. He's got that type of insight that you just cannot argue with. Aston Martin, fantastic idea. I do see the car getting better sooner rather than later, and I see the team aspect and team strategy. Not that it was bad this season, but it was only 2 races, but I do see it going in a positive upward trend for the rest of the season and for all of 2027 as well. Now, on the flip side, Audi's lost their team boss. So who is their replacement? Well, if you've watched Formula One for the last couple of seasons, well, actually, let's go 2024 and before, I do believe is when that contract finished. Who was the team boss? Comments, questions, tick, 3, 2, 1. Any guesses? It was Mattia Binotto. And I'm pretty sure I'm not saying that correctly, but yeah, he is now the new boss for Audi. Now, I'm mixed with this kind of news. It's a good thing that Audi has an experienced team boss coming in. Okay, Binotto was with Ferrari for quite a few years. Now, here's where the other part of my thought process comes in. Binotto was fucking horrible at Ferrari. He is horrible at team strategy. He never wants to get in the mix. He never wants to make decisions. He is that boss that is too scared to say yes or no. Audi needs direction. They need direction from somebody other than Nico Hülkenberg that's in the car. Binotto is not that guy. You know that meme? You're not that guy, right? You're not that guy. Binotto is not that guy. He is not that guy anymore. He should not be any kind of team boss in Formula One unless he's learned some massive lessons in Ferrari. He was absolutely atrocious running that team. The drivers didn't know if they were going up, down, left, right. They had absolutely no fucking clue, right? They didn't know really who was in charge or who was making the proper decisions on that team. And that was the last time we really saw Binotto in any kind of Formula One. I mean, Formula One period. He got booted, lost his job, and now he's back at Audi. Has he learned from his mistakes? I don't know. I really don't know. But like I said before, I 100% could be wrong about this. Binotto could have learned his lesson from Ferrari, but if you're comparing who came out on top of this deal, 100% Aston Martin did, even if they do have a shittier car, even if they do the most work to put in with their mechanics and just their overall development, Aston Martin head and shoulders ahead of Audi in this decision. Next breaking news, Ferrari is set to do a major upgrade package test in Monza during the 5-week April break between Japan and Miami. They will run a filming session evaluating their 1.5 packages of the SF26. What does this mean? So is it officially practice? No, but each team is allowed to do what they call media days, filming sessions. This is for promo stuff. This is for their, essentially it's a promotional package that they do for the team and for reps and for all that kind of fun stuff. And you are allowed to do some testing with your new packages on that. I'm very interested to see what Ferrari comes up with their new package. They're on the right track. Now, as long as they don't upgrade themselves, it should be a really close race between them and Mercedes this year. Rumor has it they're going to bring their, whatever kind of wing you want to call it, the upside down, the loop-de-loop, the macaroni, whatever you want to call it, that movable rear wing that they've got going on. They are set to bring that back and to actually legitimately put that into play and see what it looks like. Now, I am very surprised that FIA hasn't come down on them and say, no, you can't do that. But at the same time, it's pretty damn innovative. I've never seen that before, and no one really seems to be complaining about it. So the less people complain, the more you can get away with. And the getting away with things leads us into the next fantastic topic and the real reason why I put this episode on. And it's very disappointing to hear, but it's kind of part of sport in general. And I had mentioned that I was worried about something like this a little bit further back. So essentially what's come out, and I am I do believe this 100%. Mercedes, and this is going to be the headline, Mercedes has been caught cheating. Okay. They don't cheat with their aerodynamics. They're cheating with their engine development. Okay. And there's a couple reasons for this. And they're playing some pretty sketchy fucking games that I knew was going to make an appearance at some point. I just didn't think it was going to be this early. So let's start with the less of the two offenses, let's say. Okay. So in the world of engine development, Mercedes dominate engine performance in F1 by providing the most amount of engines to the most amount of teams across the board. Now, when you do this, the manufacturer, in this case Mercedes, has to disclaim and disclose everything that the engine can do, and periodically, and this is to keep everything on board, they are supposed to share everything that they have figured out with the engine, as in, hey, if you do this, this will happen. We figured out if you do this, this will happen. It's written in the production fucking contract for these teams. Mercedes knows about this. Ferrari also knows about this because they provide the most engines for everybody else. What Mercedes has not been doing is disclosing things that their engineers have found out, not only in the races, but at the actual facilities when it comes to upgrading the engine. Now, do most teams take this in consideration and follow the engine development 100%? Absolutely not. Not all engine developments work for every single type of car. But if you discover something that your engine can do, you, by law and by rules in the F1 and FIA, you have to fucking tell the teams that you provide engines to. Okay? You have to have 100% open-ended conversations going, this is what we figured out. Okay? Mercedes has not been doing this. Not at all, period. End of discussion. They have not been sharing all of these little things that they have found out. Okay? They have found out, I'll give you some examples. For instance, Mercedes, their engine when cold, and this is when the engine regulations and when they test the engines, the pistons move at a 16-to-1 ratio when the engine is cold. Okay? What Mercedes has figured out is that with their engine and their setup, when the engine is hot, and we're talking like 10 minutes after testing, when the engine is hot, all of a sudden the engine's moving at an 18-to-1 ratio. which means they're getting more compression in the engine and they're getting more horsepower out of it after testing. And they're not disclosing this to any of the teams, and they're not disclosing this to the FIA until the FIA found out for themselves, because some teams pointed it out going, hey, something doesn't look right. Or I think it was another team even figured it out going, hey, our engine, it's supposed to be 16-1, but our engine pops off its 18-1 ratio when it's super, super hot. You need to check this out. Mercedes knew about this at the very beginning of the season, at the very beginning of testing, and decided to tell nobody anything. They decided to keep that to themselves. Okay. And we're talking about the compression ratio when it comes to the 16 and the 18-1. Another thing, and this is the main thing that Mercedes needed to share that they have figured out, because when they figured this out, they could have changed the regulations and it would have prevented them essentially from breaking the rules, from doing something that has been banned from a couple seasons ago. So if you've watched and you've known about F1 for quite a while, from 2018 to 2021, I think, Mercedes would have something called, if I'm totally wrong on those dates, please let me know, but Mercedes used to have a thing called party mode on the engine. Now, this used to be a button, but then they figured out how to do this automatically with the actual engine. The engine itself, all engines rev, right? Got your RPMs, you've got your rev, shifting gears, up, down, whatever else, the engine revs. What Mercedes engines have done, and they figure out how to harness this, is very periodically, and this just happened to get busted in testing, but it was given a name. Mercedes engines in party mode, what it would do is it would affect the revs. So the engine would rev periodically when it wasn't supposed to, and it would, when it would calm down, it would go back into gear. It would give a couple of extra horsepower every time you changed gear, when you're on a straight stretch, and very certain settings in the actual engine. Now, what we don't know is what those certain engine settings were. So then the FIA banned it. Going, you're kind of cheating. It's an extra little bump in performance. So you can't do party mode anymore. Okay, fair enough. We'll take party mode away. They took it off the wheel. They supposedly changed the compression rates and the revs and all that kind of jazz, so it didn't happen again. Turns out it didn't exactly go away, because when you go back and look at it, and the FIA is taking some investigation, that there are points at the end of last season and development for this season where there's no specific party mode that Mercedes is using, but they noticed that very periodically at a certain rev rate, all of a sudden the revs would spike and then they would drop. Now, if you look at it on an instant basis, it doesn't look like anything. Oh, it looks like you revved a little bit high before you changed gears, or no, you touched the brake and it revved. Like, there's always a reason why it could have revved just that little bit second higher for a half a second or a full second, and then off you go. But what the FIA found out is when you watch the engine, it was doing these instant revs at a very specific time, very specific speed, and a very specific heat of the engine itself. Now, these revs by themselves will not do anything, but it was revving enough over a race, through practice, through qualifying, all that kind of jazz, where it was actually giving a performance boost to Mercedes. And they knew about this. They went through the entire manual of the engine that Mercedes had given out to all the teams, and each team has to do that to the FIA just to make sure that their engine is actually in accordance with all the rules and regulations and all that kind of stuff. Nothing said about this extra or added revving at a certain time and a certain temperature, all this kind of shit. It was not put in there at all. But Mercedes absolutely 100% knew about this. Toto knew about this. Antonelli knew about this. All of the engineers knew about this. Fucking George Russell knew about this as well. And every single person on that team has not said absolutely anything. Because why would you take away performance enhancing anything on your team and make it even easier? So what have they done? Have they punished Mercedes? Have they taken away points? Have they done all of this? Absolutely not, because F1 and FIA are a bunch of pussies when it comes to a rule endorsement. They haven't given them a fine. They haven't done anything to punish Mercedes, even though they know full well that Mercedes has been fucking cheating the whole time. Now, it's only 2 races, a sprint, and all those qualifying. But for the fact that if they didn't get caught now, they would have continued to do these little added extra performances that are in the gray area, quote unquote, and then flat out just, well, it's not party mode. It's just the way our engine revs. That kind of gray area bullshit. They would have done this the entire season. Now, I know some of you are thinking, But Kelsey, you don't like Mercedes. You're a Red Bull fan. I would be this irate if any team did this. If it was Red Bull, Ferrari, Alpine, Cadillac, like you're not supposed to fucking cheat. That is not the point of competition. Competition is you're trying to get the best out of your employees and your drivers and your teammates and your team itself. Absolutely. Does that give room to cheat? Absolutely not. If you break the rules, you need to be fucking punished. And the FIA will not punish them as of yet. The FIA hasn't even put out a statement after all of this was figured out. The only thing that they have done is that they're going to review each team's engine performance by Miami. Woohoo! They did put this in before the beginning of the season, but it's called the performance catch-up clause. Any team that performs under 2% of the standards are able to do essentially free upgrades and research on their engine, and all of this will not come out of their cost. I mean, take a look at Aston Martin, for example, right? Their engine is not exactly amazing. So if they fall under the 2% threshold, which they 1000% will, they will be able to kind of think of this as like a side mission. They will be able to develop the engine to catch up with the standards at their own rate and at no extra cost to their cost budget. So they could spend another $60 million if the engine is that bad to bring it up to standards, and it will not cost against their cost cap. Now, I think this is a fantastic idea. It's for the slower teams to catch up and try to get where everybody else is. But now at the same time, when you know that fucking Mercedes is cheating openly, they knew about this and they don't seem to give a shit, what is their penalty going to be? I don't think the FIA is going to do anything about it, because Mercedes is like the top 4 teams are kind of the golden children of F1. They set the standards, they speed. This is why the majority, and this, you could argue with me about this all you want, but the top 4 teams are the reason why they have as many viewers every single week, every single month, and every single year as they do. The top 4 teams sell the most amount of merch, have the most amount of sponsors, bring in the most viewers, airtime, all this kind of stuff. So to legitimately punish Mercedes, I do not think this is going to happen literally at all. They're not going to take away the points. They're not going to take away, they may give them a financial fine that goes against their cost cap. Like, woo, big deal. But unless you make them fix the issue, what's a penalty? Who gives a shit? They're far enough ahead that if they take away the rev action out of it, they're still a dominant force this year. But then it also brings up the question of what else is Mercedes hiding from the F1 and from everybody else that they aren't disclosing in the packages and their information and their research that they're supposed to. It's just absolutely not fair whatsoever. This creates a very uneven playing field. It adds a bunch of speculation across the board that I don't think needs to be there, because this never should have happened in the first place. Whoever decided to hide these performance peaks and decided to hide all this stuff from the general public and from the other teams that they were supposed to share this information with, they need to get fired. Now, it's a bit of a different story if Mercedes comes out and goes, oh, okay, yeah, we figured this out, but here's the other 4 teams that knew about it and they didn't say anything either, then that's a whole other issue. That's just widespread F1 cheating that, again, whoever was in charge of not sharing this information, be like, oh, keep it to yourself, keep it to yourself. We don't want anybody to find out. They also need to be fired. They also need to be cleansed out of Formula One, because it's supposed to be a sport. It's supposed to be the best team wins, not the best team that cheats and gets away with it wins. It's just absolutely 100% not fair. And in case you're wondering, these are the teams that Mercedes provides engines for. It's McLaren, Williams, and Alpine. Now, McLaren, you could probably take a look at if they killed it as much as last year as they do this year, or the other way around. If they were just as successful this year leading off from last year. Alpine, on the other hand, Pierre Gasly's got some really good pace this year. Alpine would not be smart enough to figure this out for themselves. I'm sorry if that sounds really mean, but Pierre Gasly, as of right now, is the only successful part of that entire team for the last 4 years. And he hasn't even won a race. He's just getting points and actually finishing races. So I really highly doubt that Alpine and Williams were in on this. It's just a massive shame to find out that one of the leading teams in Formula One, one of the staple teams in Formula One, obviously and blatantly were not disclosing all the information like they should have. They knew they were cheating with this modified party mode without telling anybody. And they knew that sort of performance from your engines and the car itself was actually banned. and they still decided to do it. But hey, if you're not going to get punished by the ref when you get caught cheating, it doesn't discourage any of the teams from cheating, period. Whether it's Cadillac, Haas, Williams, Red Bull, Mercedes, Alpine, like it doesn't matter. If you're caught cheating, you need to be punished. But with an organization like this that's just so scared to actually punish teams because it costs them so much money to actually be in the sport and they don't want to lose face with anybody, I wouldn't expect anything to come of this revelation at all. And we're going to end this off with some extraordinarily, and I mean extraordinarily happy news. If you follow F1 at all, I know or not, you have heard of Michael Schumacher, right? He is like, when you think of Ferrari, that is Michael Schumacher. When you think of F1, it's Senna, it's Michael Schumacher, right? So December 29th, 2013, Michael Schumacher was skiing in the French Alps with his son. He fell, he struck his head on a rock, severe brain injury despite wearing a helmet, and he was bedridden therefore, like ever since. His family has been very secretive of his treatment. No pictures of Michael Schumacher have ever been taken that have not been of the family's permission. Like they are very like to keep to themselves, a lot of family time. And I mean, Michael Schumacher has money until the end of time. So rumor had it that he's being treated every week in his home. And I believe it was in Switzerland by medical doctors, personal medical doctors, state of the art, breaking medical boundaries, this and that. And he was bedridden. He didn't recognize anybody. He could not take care of himself, period. 100%. Like he was bedridden and he was alive, but that was pretty much it. Well, it's amazing to see not just the advancements in medical care, but I am very happy to report now that Michael Schumacher is no longer bedridden since 2013. Now, he's not running around the house. He's not skipping. He's not playing all that kind of jazz, but he recognizes faces. He knows where he is. He's able to speak with quite a bit of clarity now compared to what he was able to do before. He is able to stand to some extent. Now, he doesn't have full use of his legs yet, but he is 100% awake. He is 100% aware. He is 100% responsive. He can move his hands a little bit. This is anybody who's a Michael Schumacher fan. This is fantastic news. He is and forever will be the golden boy of Formula One. And it wouldn't surprise me in the next maybe 2035, the way that his progression has taken place and all the medical advancements that he is responsible for that we just don't know about yet. I would definitely be able to say that we might even be able to see pictures of him standing on his own, and potentially, this is just me holding my breath, I would love to see this, but I would love to see a public appearance of some kind. And I bet this would happen by 2035, like another 9 years from now. And it would be a fantastic and very, very big medical breakthrough. So congratulations to the Schumacher family. As an F1 fan, this just warms my heart with no amount of joy to see him recovering at the pace that he needed to. It was devastating to the sport, obviously devastating to the family, but it's fantastic to see the progress that he has made since then. Well, there you have it, folks. That is the breaking news F101 Hot Topics episode. I hope everybody enjoyed this. And always a massive, massive thank you to all my F1 fans out there. I love reporting on this stuff. I love keeping everybody in the know. So leave comments. If you've got any comments, questions, concerns, please leave them down below. I will answer anything and everything I possibly can on the next episode. And until then, keep your engine revving and your wheels spinning. And thank you from F101.